All right, it's 1 o'clock, so let's do this. My name's Joe Moya. I am the Customer Success Manager over at Classy on technical staff, and I am moderating today's panel, Connected Nonprofit, How Large Organizations Use APIs to Keep Growing and Maximize ROI. That's a lot. And with me today, we have an all-star technical panel who I will introduce one by one. Starting with Michael Prodor. He's our Technical Engagement Manager over at Classy, working with our enterprise clients. I have Daniel Linton, CEO and founder of LyntonWeb. Joe Kranick, Information Management at Shriners Hospital for Children, Classy client. Andres Jimenez from Marketing and Information at JDC, also Classy client. And then I also have Matt Hall with me, Senior Technical Lead at Omatic Software. So I'm going to pass this over to Michael, and we'll go ahead and get this started.
Thank you very much, Joe. Wow, that was loud. I'm glad you're all here today. Thanks for coming after lunch. This is a panel to talk about business issues and APIs that solve them. So if you're technical, I'm really excited. We're going to dive into the weeds, talk about some of the bits and bytes involved in APIs, and at the very end, we'll talk about the space-time continuum. No. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about some real-world organizational problems that we had and how Classy's APIs served up solutions for them. We have change agents up here in Joe and Andres, and we have some amazing technical folks in here with Dan and Matt, and they solved some real-world problems that you may have faced. And my hope is that they're going to inspire you to look to a technology to solve some of the problems you face on a daily basis. So at a high level, what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about the problems and solutions. We'll go JDC first and then Shriners. We'll do it alphabetically. Then we'll open up to more of a panel discussion to kind of compare and contrast how things went, because the two solutions are different. And then the very end of this session, we'll actually take questions. We'll open up to the floor. Any questions you have related to the APIs or the organizations or the decisions or the changes it made to this organization are more than happy to be fielded here. So that's the stage we have set today. With that, I'd like to turn it to Andres and Daniel to talk about the JDC issue and how they solved their problem.
Yes, good afternoon. Our organization, we face a lot of difficulties on how we manage our data and the connection to a lot of the programs that we use in order to maintain a clean and a good database. So we have been experiencing a lot of challenges on how we connect with accounting, how we connect with our donation database, how we connect with our marketing database. So it has been like a little bit of a challenge for us. And I think that one of the things is that recognizing that there is people out there, or there are other companies out there that we can find solutions in order to connect these things. I can tell you that we were, as an organization, very afraid of doing any of these changes. We were used to very old databases, very old thinking, and I think that shifting that mentality and seeing that there is other ways of doing this is where we find the success on what we do. Pretty much, I mean, like the first thing that we did, it was just connecting our marketing database with our payment systems, with our razor edge systems, how we make these things happen in a way that is seamless for the client. This doesn't have to be painful for the donors. Maybe it's a little bit painful for us, but at the end of the day, we get a lot of retributions out of that. Especially, I mean, on my field, which is marketing, because this is the key on communicating with people, knowing what the donor is coming from to the organization and how we can serve better to their solutions. And I think that finding those key parts and those key partners, finding those solutions, it has made a tremendous change on the way on how we operate and how we see the future of the organization, how we can serve better the people that we support, the donors, and how we connect the picture of an organization and the importance that we have on the world of what we do.
Your job was pushing for change. Our job was easy because all we had to do was build the integration. So when you came to us, we had to scope out, A, can we integrate, and B, how are we going to do it? As an inbound marketing agency, we build integrations with HubSpot all the time, and we start by carefully evaluating any new third-party API. We found the Classy API to be very easy to work with, and we designed an integration scope that would work for JDC's needs. That involved integrating supporters and member data into HubSpot, and then importing or synchronizing transactions and recurring donations, as well as campaign data, campaign designation, anything that would help JDC push the needle in their marketing automation. That's really what we're all about. HubSpot is an inbound marketing platform that supports email marketing, automated email nurturing, and a variety of web analytics and lead generation. So our job was to tie all of that together. We do it all the time, so it was easy. Andres had to really push for change and rip out old systems and replace them with new ones.
And that's true. But one of the parts or the key issues, as many other organizations also seeing on the back end of their operations, they have to tie up campaigns IDs, fundraising IDs, program IDs. They have so many things that they go around. And I mean, once we find a solution and once we connect with a company like Daniel Lynton, we were able to see how we could transport that data from database to database, make it seamless, and for us to do a better marketing job on communicating with people. That's, I mean, that was a really important part of it. And afterwards, I mean, like seeing all these connections, also connecting with Omatic and doing a lot of the operations that at the end of the day, if you looked at it, they are going to save money for the organization. Operations spends a lot of money on the way on how we do a structure and strategize for things. But connecting those dots, at the end of the day, it's just giving us the facility to look really what the donor wants and how we can help the people in the field, how we can spend better resources and be more pragmatic about the solutions that we're getting for the world.
Andres, what you're saying then is you've really improved the efficiency of your organization, reduced costs and operations just by getting over some day-to-day problems that you were recurring that was happening on a regular basis.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yes, that's true. I mean, it's a way on how we are not able, or how we are stuck on seeing the problem but not finding the solution. If we get to find the solution, then the problem becomes smaller and smaller, and then you will see that there is more resources for the organizations to kind of do the jobs that they have to do day to day.
Let's turn it over to Joe and Matt to talk about your problem and the solution to get you where you are today.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I want to take some time and kind of go back to illustrate how where we were and where we are today with Shriners Hospitals for Children. Although the organization has been around for over 90 years, we really haven't started fundraising until the past 11 years. And over that time, we had a very small development staff. We still do, we're growing, but it was very small at the time, so we depended highly on vendors and outside sources to build out our revenue channels. So over the 11 years, we've started direct mail, and that data is stored in its own database. We have our online with Luminate Online, and Blackbaud CRM is our in-house database. So all these different databases are in different areas, and they don't communicate with each other. So our in-house development staff at all the 22 hospitals, we're only using CRM after we switched over from our in-house database, our homegrown access database. So we converted over to Blackbaud CRM, and that is the only database that they had access to. So they would constantly be asking how they can get the donors that donated via direct mail or online. For this panel here, I want to talk about our online process that we would have to go through with Luminate Online. it does not play nice with the CRM. It's very hard to get data out of it. On a monthly basis, so say a donation was given on April 1st, I can't actually export that data until May, after May 9th. And then the data is so dirty because there's no validation on the web form. Donors can put anything in their name. They put their husband's name, their kid's name, their dog, their cat. So as a data perspective, obviously we don't want that information. We just want the donor, how much they gave, address, and that kind of stuff. So I spend 3 days straight cleaning up, downloading that data and cleaning it before I can import it into CRM. Now that we moved over to Classy with the API, we're going to be able to do that on a nightly basis. With Classy's validation on their web forms, you get much cleaner data. The address, as they type it in, it fills it out for them. On Lumen and online, they could type anything for their address as well. So for us, it's man hours and time that the development staff can get the data in their hands. I'm learning. I've been with Shriners for 11 years. I was on the IT side, and just a year now I've been moved over to fundraising, or that department, and I'm learning how important the data is for the development staff to do prospect researching and cultivation of this information. So if they have to wait a month and a half, or sometimes that donation on April 1st may not get into the system depending on my schedule until the end of May. So that's stale data. That's doesn't help the development staff at all. So it's been a great help to get it done on a nightly basis. Also with the API, we also do television spots with direct response. We give them a phone number and the web donation form. So with the phone number, we have 2 call centers where the donors can call in, and we're using the Classy API to go from the call center, their system that they use, and to integrate into Classy. So then in turn, we'll get that information from Classy into CRM. So the whole idea with all these integrations, that's why we partnered with Omatic Solutions. They already had a integration with Classy and Blackbaud Razor's Edge. Getting the data out of Classy is very easy. Getting it into Blackbaud CRM is a challenge, and that's why Omatic and Matt, we partnered with them to do that part of it, because that's the more challenging piece. So with the call centers, they're going to use the API to get into Classy, and then we'll import that data into CRM, and our development staff will have that within a day and use it for their cultivation and prospecting.
Hey, Matt?
As far as the technical integration went, I would echo what Dan said. I think the hard part is making the decision to take the leap, in the face of a lot of risks. But once you've made that decision, again, I would echo what Dan said. I have familiarity with, we at Omatic have familiarity with importing into CRM. We have familiarity with the Classy API. What you want from your API or any data extract really is you want it to be frictionless. You just want the data extract and bringing it over. You want that to be easy. To me, the hard part is what do you do with it? You got a lot of cleanup you need to do. You need to match it against your existing data, look for duplicates. So that to me is the hard part. I want the extract to be easy, and with I think a lot of extracts these days are still written. You negotiate a file format. You come up with a SFTP location. You come up with file headers, file footers, file naming schemes. You have to negotiate all these things, and then you go through all that effort, and a month later you say, we actually need these 3 extra columns, and now we have to work through a whole new cycle of getting those columns into the file, testing them. It's a painful process, which is surprising for 2017, but that's still the way a lot of things are done. So you want that to be, like I said, as frictionless and easy as possible. So that's the luxury of the Classy API. You can just reach out anytime. You can grab it. I can get all donations up to a certain point within a certain time range. If I need to go back and get something again, I can. If I need more data, it's out there. If we decide to bring in more campaign data, for example, into CRM, again, it's all out there. So I don't have to do that whole cycle of, okay, let's add these 3 new columns. Are they in the correct format? that part, to me, is easy, and that lets us focus on the hard part, which is business rules and deduplication, all the things you do with your data once it gets into your system.
That makes sense. Thank you very much. So just an overview, if people aren't really familiar with the Classy API, the Classy API is a set of programmable interfaces that allow you to extend the application itself. If you want to pull membership information, contact information, addresses, campaigns, pages, donation forms, marketing information to chop up your data and send it to your marketing systems, that's what the API provides. And it's completely extendable out, and we expect you to use it like you're using the user interface, except you're going to do things in a mass quantity. You're going to pull out hundreds of donations a night or 5 donations a minute, however you want to do it. That's the niceness of Classy APIs, that you pull that as needed. So I know we talked a little bit about change before we came up here. It's an inside story. To me, it sounded like change was the hardest part of this whole process. We had a technical process that we came up with a solution for. Actually getting to the point where they had that problem and they were facing it on a daily basis, and making the change was quite a big deal. And Joe and Andres, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yes. I mean, for us, I think that integration will dictate innovation. And what that means is that we have to learn how to work smarter, not harder. We usually go into databases and work very hard to get information and get a lot of the things that we need in order to communicate with people. Sometimes we lost track of recurring donors. Sometimes we lose a lot of the things that we have to pay really, really attention. And the whole idea is because, I mean, the importance of data is how we're moving, facing towards the future. One of the important things of it is that we are able to create smart workflows. We don't have to do the hard work. If we know the data, if we know how to plug it into our marketing systems, if we know how to plug it into our internal systems, we can dictate the systems what to do, when to send an email, when to communicate, when to ask for a donation, how we ask for a donation, or what the interest of people have. And I think that that's the key value of doing this. Now, the other part of it is, yes, change is hard. Change is completely difficult to do. But if you take the risk and you look at what's over the hill and you go and really see the value that implementing more smarter systems into the picture, I mean, this is something that I don't know. I mean, I have to say it, for our organization, this is something that is very, very, very valuable, and that has taught in many other departments, in many other places, why we should change, why we should think different, why we cannot stay looking at 10 years ago how a system used to work. Marketing is difficult for nonprofit organizations, but it's not that hard when we implement the right tools. That's the challenge of it, and that's where, if we think about change, is where everything comes up as how we are going to utilize artificial intelligence, how we're going to use connections with social media, how we're going to do a lot of the stuff that is needed in order to get donors interested on our cause, on what we do. And I think that that's pretty much
for us, I think it goes back to the infancy of our fundraising. Over these 11 years, there's been so much change. We've asked them to switch from their simple Access database to a massive database of Blackbaud CRM. So what we're focusing on is getting small wins, or making them happy. They're more receptive to the change when things get better for them. In our case, maybe the best decisions weren't made in the past, so we're trying to partner with the right companies and right systems to make these right decisions and make better decisions and make it better for them. So that's how we're approaching it. It's trying to. I talk with Matt all the time when he's helping us along with these integrations to customize Blackbaud CRM and to get small wins. They're using Razor's Edge. CRM is not Razor's Edge, so we need to customize it to make them happy, to kind of maybe make it a little bit more like Razor's Edge. So getting small wins helps helps the change.
It really does. Yeah. And then Daniel and Matt. Daniel and Matt have made solutions that are going to help any organization. What they've done specifically for JDC and Shriners is customized to them. But do you guys want to talk a little bit about, the extensibility of the solutions you create and how they can meet any organization's needs?
Sure. Well, I guess to start with the use case of what we built, like Michael said, we have now a reusable packaged integration for any other organization looking to take advantage of HubSpot. We're synchronizing in real time any new supporters or updates to supporter data and syncing that over to HubSpot, which is able to execute automated email workflows and reporting. We're doing the same for transactions and recurring donations. So anytime someone makes a donation or sets a recurring donation or changes the status of that, those updates are immediately captured inside of HubSpot. So one of the challenges or use cases that we had to build for was it was very important for JDC to be able to track the full life cycle and the source of a donation. And they're sending campaign codes to their donation pages. When we sync that donation back into HubSpot, they want to know where that, what email campaign or other campaign effort drove that donation. So we're able to drag or capture that out of the page name. They put a campaign code inside of the page name. We parse that out and put it in its own special field in HubSpot, which is then able to be used for reporting and automation rules. So that's just one of the things that we were able to build into the integration. But like I said, it's a package sync. It sends everything about the supporter, the member, and transactions, including campaigns and campaign designations from Classy into HubSpot. And then let's say if someone updates their email address or some contact information in HubSpot, we sync that back over to Classy as well. So it really keeps both systems intact and allows marketers to initiate campaigns, either one-time emails or set up email automation. Now, one of the email automation use cases we built out is the ability to drive increases in the average donation size. So we can look at, as an aggregate, at all of the donations that each member or supporter has made. Average those all out and put those in a field in HubSpot, which can then be used to suggest a future donation amount in emails. So we can continue to raise that average donation size by maybe adding 10% and suggesting that in a prompt in an email with some other donation amounts higher and lower. So that's just another thing you can do with email automation connected into Classy.
So the solution we implemented with Shriners is, I think there are common things you do with any integration. You need the extract. You need to run through some sort of transformation of the data. You need to dedupe it, and then you need to, depending on whether it's a match to an existing record, update the existing record or import the new record. These are common things, and we've done this enough that we already have that common code base. So we built it intentionally extensible so you probably have your own rules for what constitutes clean data, or when should we apply the incoming transaction to a household versus to an individual donor. Our solution is designed to take that sort of thing into account. So we'll implement the core components of it, and then we'll work with Shriners or whoever to add in the custom logic, maybe the custom deduplication matching logic. So we've got that in place. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is I was actually kind of spoiled in the sense that Omatic is historically a products company, so we actually had a Classy library that had already been written by our products team. So I've had to extend it. I've had to add new fields and modify existing fields and kind of change the logic of it. But in one sense, I was kind of spoiled in that I had a code base to start from. But I do think that's an important component if you're going to write an integration and it's going to talk to Classy. It probably goes without saying to a developer, but capture that in a library so you can reuse it for different things. So the implementation is, again, we have like a core implementation that we implement. And then, of course, we have extensibility points for your custom business logic or your custom deduplication logic or your custom logic to commit the records into the CRM system.
That makes sense. Good.
And yeah, as far as what Matt's saying, what they're doing for us, like I explained earlier about the amount of time it's going to save me, instead of having to clean up the data from the Help with Classy's form and the integration that they're doing that's going to clean up whatever gets through. Basically, all I'm going to have to do is look at possible duplicates that don't quite match the number that we come up with. So from a time perspective and the cost of wasted time, it's going to be huge for us.
Yeah, and again, that was a point where, again, I was kind of spoiled in that Omatic has a history of solving exactly that problem, so I was able to leverage a lot of the knowledge that's gone into algorithms to do that sort of work. So yeah, that was a big benefit.
Yeah. And then my next question to the panel would be, you've got over that first problem, right? You were allowed to make the change for the first one to support that solution. What's it going to be like now when other problems come up and you suggest some type of technical solution? What do you think is going to happen at an organizational level?
Well, like I said earlier, as long as we keep providing better solutions and getting those small wins, it's definitely going to be easier to get them to adopt the technology. If it's going to make it better, the change should be accepted. One of the things that me and my team have an issue, or not an issue, but it's just kind of funny, is that they're always talking about our donors are old. Well, eventually those old donors are going to move on, and we need to cultivate the younger donors. So bringing this new technology, getting us up to the 21st century is a big challenge in our organization, because the Shriners are old. So that's a culture thing that we're trying to work through as well, on top of all the technology. But just making things better, it makes it easier to.
Yeah, and I think that one of the important part of this is that in my role on marketing, I can tell you that it will lead us to create better campaigns, faster campaigns, how we can communicate with people. In our organization, we also do a lot of immediate response to disaster relief, and this is something that we don't have the time when something happens to go back and look at the data and spend the time on trying to do something and be 3 days later communicating with people while other organizations are communicating already with them. So this is the real challenge, is how we utilize the time wisely on doing these things, and not spending it on kind of going back and creating reports and creating all these things that they kind of like, at the end of the day, if you looked at it, make it useless.
So now Andres and his team can send personalized marketing on demand, based on workflows. And Matt touched on extensibility. If Andres needs additional data, say the Q&A fields on forms, they want to know some of the answers that were provided on those forms. Well, those aren't in the connector today, but we can add them to the connector, just like any other endpoint that's in the Classy API. They essentially expose everything that you see in the UI when you log into Classy is available in the API for us to consume. So we can extend it at any time and just drive the personalized marketing that one step further.
As far as new changes being requested, I think we've laid the groundwork at this point to prove that data can be integrated and run through a pipeline. Now we can reuse that pipeline with other data sources. So I think from a technical perspective, it's now easy. And then hopefully what you want is the user satisfaction with the end result, the quality of your data that you're getting, and the speed that you're getting the data to encourage them to request more data feeds, which is what we also have coming through the rest of this year. We'll integrate more sources through that common data pipeline that we've created.
And then my question for Daniel and Matt. You've now experienced the Classy APIs. I know you've had a little different experience just based on the different projects, but what are your thoughts, not getting too deep into the, I had the mod, 7 different divs on the numbers to get them in, but just from a high level, what did you think of the APIs from our documentation and the actual use?
Well, we were, our team was new to the Classy API, so we were using it for the first time. We had an integration running within a couple weeks. We were moving data. It was very easy to work with. It follows modern standards. It's, for any technical folks out there, it's a REST-based API, so it's very easy to consume. It's also very fast, so we can move a lot of data very quickly. We were really happy to see things like the ability to request recently modified records. That way we can sync just the net changes. We'll ask for any records that change in the past 5 minutes, and we'll run the integration every 5 minutes, so you have real-time data sync in both platforms. Another thing we really liked was the ability to see all of the custom fields and write custom fields back to Classy. That made the integration really powerful. And when those features are lacking, you end up having to patch on other sticky tape type solutions. But we were able to keep everything self-contained within the Classy API. Like I said, we had it running in a matter of weeks, and we can add any other endpoints onto it pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the implementation goes, as far as using the Classy API, like I said, you want frictionless, and that's been our experience. It's just easy. That's been the easy part of the implementation. Now let's work with the data. That's become where the focus is, and in my opinion, where it should be. But as far as working with the API, we were able to understand everything from the documentation. You understand the way to use different parameters that are handed in to your REST calls. It uses OAuth 2, which is becoming pretty ubiquitous. So your authentication is standard. Honestly, like I said, it was easy. We didn't have to fight much there, which is fine by me.
Yeah, that's good. And we're finding a lot of our clients have that same experience, whether they're doing it themselves or they're actually working with a technology client, a partner like this. It's gone very smoothly. And at the same time, Classy provides support for your APIs. So as a client, if you come to us and you say, I have this issue, and we'd love for you to do that, by the way. I have this issue. Can you give me some help from a technical perspective how we can solve that? If you need it, we'll help you architect and workflow the process. We'll let you code it all, but we'll walk you through the process and help you develop the tests for it and make sure it solves the problem based on the requirements you have. Because that's kind of how we developed these solutions here was, Shriners and Andre and Joe, they had problems. And it was like, my finance department is pushing me, our clients are suffering, we're not getting the data quality we need, how can you help us fix it? And then Daniel and Matt came in and helped us to really provide the technology to push that solution into reality.
Well, I would like to say, as a third-party developer, we do work with a lot of software companies like Classy. And I didn't want to forget to say this because we had an extraordinary experience working with their team, and they really brought us in from the very beginning in the implementation phase. And we got to sit in on the meetings with JDC, we got to ask questions, and our developer and his team had direct access to Classy's team for any support or questions on how to use the API. So I would urge you to reach out to Classy if you have any questions or if you have any ideas for how you might be able to leverage the API, because they can definitely help a lot.
Yeah, and I'd also like to add, as we're going through the process, I mean, we originally took Classy on to help us with our online donations and the integration with the API into CRM. But as we're going through these processes and learning how the API works, and I guess learning our own processes along the way, like it goes back to what I said, they had a bunch of different companies doing different things. So our direct TV or direct response TV commercials, we offer a premium, a blanket, if you donate $19 a month. So there's a whole process behind the scenes through Luminate, through another company that does the fulfillment and all this. So what we've learned with the APIs is that we're going to be able to eliminate one of the whole other companies that's doing a manual process, because the data, again, is so crazy coming out of Luminate that the Classy API will be able to pass them through cleaner data directly to the third party that actually does the fulfillment. So we're another cost savings that we're going to eliminate a whole nother company and a manual process where it could, there have been issues where the person doing the manual work, made a mistake, which happens. So to make it more automated and clean, that's just another thing that we've discovered along the way.
Yep.
And they're definitely helping us throughout everything.
Thanks, guys. This is actually really informative, being on the technical team. I want to make sure that we can have enough time for Q&A. I know that you guys are probably in a wicked food coma, but I do want to give you the opportunity to ask some questions, so I'll pass the mic around.
Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Are you guys also doing integrations on the back end with, you mentioned finance, somebody, are you integrating some of this data into financial information for collecting donors' information and financial data as well?
We could. So we could. We're actually passing information right now in the Shriner's extract, which includes member constituent information as well as revenue, which we call transactions. Yes.
As far as, just to follow up on that, the nature of of the Shriner setup in particular is CRM is going to be the system, the single source of truth. So out of that, we can feed your GL or whatever other systems, but the entire goal with particularly the Shriner's implementation was get the data, get it clean, get it into your single source of truth, and then if you want to feed that back out for bidirectional sync or into your GL, that's tackled as sort of a different project.
Yeah. Joe, there's the lady in the third row.
Sorry. Right over you.
Hi. I just wanted to know if I understood correctly, Andres, you had multiple databases, is that correct? That they helped to connect, or did you move into one database?
No, we do have multiple databases, but in order to have multiple databases, they perform in different environments. We have databases for marketing, we have databases for our donor platforms. We have, and the whole idea is that if we share information between those platforms is where we find the key solution to the problem. So yeah, we do have multiple, but I mean, like finding out with Daniel the connection with Classy and finding out with Omatic our connection to our Razor's Edge system and how we triangulate the whole operations, it's the key success that we have had.
Okay, so you didn't replace your databases, you just connected them, is that correct?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quiet group today. Wait, we have one more.
Sorry, I don't mean to hog the microphone. So you both talked about, Joe and Andres, change management. When you do these huge projects, you suddenly have data that's accessible to a much bigger group of people across your organization, but oftentimes that's not leveraged effectively by an organization. Have you worked with the team here to create either training or some kind of sessions where the people using these systems can start to understand what's available? Because when you talk about maximize ROI, my experience is you put these huge systems in place and people are only using 50% of the functionality, right? So just curious about how you guys might have encountered and...
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that. Definitely the Blackbaud CRM implementation, yeah, we're probably using maybe 20% of its capabilities. With Classy, they've been holding our hand along on the whole way. We've done training, training with all our development officers to show them what they can see now, what they couldn't before with Luminant Online. They were not able to log in and see their peer-to-peer fundraising pages or their little events that they're running. So we had a whole training session. My the web staff is doing hands-on training with them to keep them informed and make sure they're using it. And this is just an example of like I said, a win. It's something new that they couldn't do before. So it's a big plus for us.
On our part, what we did, it was that between our marketing database system and between Classy and between Daniel and between Omatic, what we did is we got together and we work it out as a team. we every day come out with a lot of concerns because of the way that we used to think about our data and about our systems. We were not able to break that barrier of seeing that there are more possibilities out there when you look at it in a different way. And I think that at the beginning, I believe that I had a lot of conflicts with myself on communicating with Classy, communicating with Daniel, communicating, and I was like, this is not what we want. This is not the data that we're looking at. This is not really. And then we sit down with my team, with everybody, we sit down and we said, look, what is it that we're really looking for? What is it that we need as a database, and why do we need these pieces of information? The whole question actually is not what we need, is why we need it. And when we look at it, why we need it, then we understand how Classy will function better with our donations. How will Daniel connect with our marketing system? How it will connect with our research agent system? How this goes seamlessly with our accounting system, and how everything goes around in order to get that data. So that's, I think that, I think that the experience that we have had, and I can tell you, we changed systems on December last year, so it's very recently. But I think that, on my expectations of what I was looking as a success to happen, I think that it had already happened, and I seeing a lot of success on the campaigns and everything that we're doing. So
I think also to add to that, if you have a set of wonderful systems that don't connect, and you don't know where your customer data is and what one's right, because it's Tuesday, you have to go to this one, that's a bad situation. Data quality is a huge problem. If you don't have the right data at the right time, it's an opportunity cost. You have people going in and manually changing things. At the same time, so you can automate the transfer of data, it adds so much more value to your data itself. You can make decisions based on, like with Joe, what happened yesterday than what happened in March. And that's part of the key. Is Classy is one of the keystones in a set of systems that's going to drive your organization to operational efficiency. And that's what the APIs really serve you to do, is to integrate all those and build them according to how your business runs.
One more thing I wanted to add. As far as we at Omatic don't typically deliver the end user training, at least in enterprise. We on Razor's Edge, we certainly do that. But on the enterprise side, I think one thing we do, a detail of our implementation, helps support the spread of the knowledge so that users are aware of this new data that's available, and so they can effectively use it. One of the things we do to support that is iterative delivery. So we're constantly delivering new functionality, and we're demoing it to Joe's team over a webinar. And so Joe's business analysts and QA team can see that. Then they pull in more testers once it's reached a certain point. So those more testers are typically power users. So that's more spread of the knowledge. And then ultimately, by the time it goes into production, hopefully you've seeded enough knowledge at your most important places that it can spread from there.
Okay, I have a question. This is a curveball related, but sort of not. How important do you think it is using APIs for organizations to be able to have control over the user experience and branding perspective that can be implemented through an API? So for example, giving them the opportunity to build a fundraising page completely outside of Classy and being able to control that experience. How important do you guys think that is? And that's for anyone who wants to answer it.
I can take that. We have customers today that are interested in having a one-stop shop. You want your customer to come in and change their email address, change their last name, change their billing address, and make a donation on the same page. If you have to log into 3 different pages to do that, that's too many touches for your donors. You want to make it as simple as possible, and again, make it that platform or that portal for your members to use, and just make it easy for them to talk to you and communicate with you, and you communicate right back.
I agree with that. Because, as I said it before, why we have to make it painfully for donors? Why we have to make it more painfully in a way that they have to relate to many things in order to get through our organizations? At the other, I mean, what we need to do is to make it easier, connect the APIs, connect with all the data that we have, so it will become a faster decision making for the donor, instead of making it difficult and knowing that at some point they're going to drop out because this came so difficult for them. And so that's something that is really, really important for us.
I mean, the bottom line of what my team and I talk about every day is we just want to give the donor a better experience, and we want to give our development staff the tools to raise more money. So that's what it's about.
Yeah, every little nonprofit wants to do a custom API and a custom landing page. The problem we run into, we're a really small NGO, there's like 6 of us, is capacity to maintain that over the long term. And I'm wondering what kind of support Classy would give to an organization like ours that does a custom API thing. Are we then stranded in the wasteland of having to maintain it without a development staff, or does Classy offer anything in that regard?
So if you're talking specifically about professional services to help with that, today we're not staffed for that, but that's definitely an opportunity. At the same time, for the smaller shops, depending on what you want, I mean, I'm sure you have big dreams, but you have to build a little play zone before you can go to Orlando. So for smaller companies, we have plugins to WordPress. We have short codes in our APIs that allow you to pull leader codes, the top donors, things like that, to make it really simple. It's very scalable, depending on what you want to do. And honestly, we always, especially with the smaller shops, start off small. Just start to develop the small things like the leaderboards, the top donors, things like that, and then move on from there.
And then do you provide resources in terms of recommended outside third-party providers?
Yes, we do. We do, yes.
All right, we have time for one last question. Anyone want to take it?
I'm curious, obviously Classy is continually changing the product and innovating, and which is amazing, especially as a client. But I'm curious, for all these organizations that are using APIs, what is that process in terms of keeping abreast of when things are changing, if they've kind of integrated their core competency with what you're doing? What is the dialogue back and forth or process for that?
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Yeah, so in terms of organizations that are using APIs and really integrated with what you're doing, as the products are continually changing and updating on a regular basis, which again is fantastic, what is that kind of dialogue back and forth in terms of organizations keeping abreast of when there are changes that would then affect what the data that they're pulling?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
So we have a philosophy at Classy. We don't make destructive changes very often. Very, very rarely are we going to make a change that's going to break your code. If we do, for instance, if we're going from a version, which is a fairly rare occurrence, if we go version 1 to version 2, we're going to let you know, probably give you 30 to 60 days to let you know what the changes are and give you specific changes, how you can make those changes to support those things. But very rarely do people have to change their APIs because we've made a change that's broken things. I think that was the last question. We really appreciate all your time for sitting there taking it. If you do have any questions and you were a little microphone shy, you're free to come up to the front for a little bit. I know Joe has another appointment at 2, but we're open to answer any other questions you may have. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the collaborative.